He left her after she told him she was pregnant, but she became rich, and he came back for her money. Dear viewers, welcome to our channel. Subscribe to receive more stories every day. The rain hammered down relentlessly as Lila sat alone in the dimly lit apartment. Her suitcase, filled with whatever she could salvage in her rush to leave, lay by the door. The echo of Eric's words cut through her mind like shards of glass. I can't do this anymore. You've ruined my life with this pregnancy. Don't expect me to stick around to watch you sink. Lila had begged him to reconsider, holding on to the faint hope that the man she'd once loved could see the potential in the life growing inside her. But Eric was unmoved, his eyes cold, his ambition blinding him to anything beyond his career. He left without looking back, slamming the door on the life they'd built. For weeks, Lila drifted through despair, struggling to navigate the daunting reality of being a single mother-to-be. Her savings dwindled rapidly, and she faced eviction. Just when it seemed like the walls of her world were closing in, a lifeline arrived. A letter from her late father's lawyer. It spoke of an old investment her father had made, one she knew nothing about. Skeptical but desperate, she followed up, only to discover that the modest venture her father had poured his life savings into had ballooned into a multimillion-dollar empire. Lila was stunned to learn that she was now the sole beneficiary of a fortune that could change her and her child's life forever. Tears streamed down her face as she stared at the documents verifying her inheritance. It was as if her father had reached out from the grave to protect her in her darkest moment. The grief of losing him was now mingled with gratitude, fueling her determination to build something meaningful from his legacy. Months passed, and Lila's life transformed. She moved into a townhouse in the city, started attending business seminars, and sought the guidance of financial advisors. Her child, whom she named Ellie, became the light of her life and her driving force. The inheritance wasn't just a gift. It was an opportunity. With her father's foresight and her own grit, Lila turned the initial fortune into a thriving tech startup. Late nights, endless planning, and fierce determination became her new reality. What once seemed like insurmountable obstacles became stepping stones toward a future she could control. Eric, meanwhile, spiraled. Without Lila to lean on, his overambition led to reckless decisions. His startup venture failed catastrophically, leaving him drowning in debt. The friends he had once impressed with his bravado disappeared, and he found himself living paycheck to paycheck. The image of the powerful man he had carefully curated crumbled, replaced by one of desperation. 5 years later, their paths crossed unexpectedly. Lila, now the confident CEO of a growing tech company, attended a charity gala as a keynote speaker. Her speech about resilience and transformation captivated the audience, and she was met with a standing ovation. Among the sea of applause, Eric stood frozen in disbelief. The woman on stage, radiating success and poise, was unrecognizable from the heartbroken partner he had left behind. She was no longer a victim of his callousness but a force to be reckoned with. The realization hit him like a freight train. Lila wasn't just doing well, she was thriving in ways he had never imagined. And her success made his failures even more glaring. The wheels in Eric's mind began to turn. He needed a way back in. Eric lingered near the edges of the crowd at the charity gala, gripping his glass of champagne as if it could steady the storm brewing inside him. The woman he had abandoned was now the embodiment of success, commanding the room with her presence. Every smile directed at her, every handshake, was a reminder of what he had lost. He waited until the crowd around Lila had thinned before approaching her. She was laughing with a group of investors, her face glowing with pride and accomplishment. Eric rehearsed his lines in his head, crafting an apology that would sound heartfelt, rehearsing the regret he barely felt. "Lila," he called softly, his voice catching slightly. She turned, her smile faltering for a split second before it returned, this time cooler, more reserved. Eric, she said, her tone as polite as it was distant. It's been a long time, he started, his eyes darting nervously. I heard you were doing well, but I didn't realize just how well. Lila raised an eyebrow, her polished demeanor betraying none of the tumult she felt at seeing him. Yes, life has been good. How about you? Eric hesitated, unsure how to frame his failures in a way that wouldn't completely undermine him. It's had its ups and downs, he said vaguely, forcing a chuckle. Listen, Lila, I just wanted to say I'm sorry. For everything. I wasn't in the right headspace back then, and I made a lot of mistakes. Lila tilted her head, studying him. She had imagined this moment countless times over the years, wondering how she'd feel if Eric ever came crawling back. Would she feel vindicated, angry, hurt? To her surprise, she felt nothing. Well, thank you for saying that, she said smoothly. It's in the past now. Eric took her words as an opening. I've been through a lot lately, Lila. Things haven't exactly been easy, and seeing you like this, it's inspiring. Maybe we could reconnect. For Ellie's sake. The mention of her daughter sent a chill through Lila. She kept her composure, though, and gave him a polite smile. Ellie is thriving. She has everything she needs. Eric's smile faltered as he realized his attempt to wedge himself back into her life wasn't working. He pushed further. I'd love to meet her, Lila. I've made mistakes, but I want to be part of her life now. Lila's eyes hardened. It's taken you 5 years to care about being part of her life, she asked, her voice calm but razor-sharp. Eric stammered, I didn't know how to approach you. I've been struggling, Lila. I lost my business, my house. Everything. Seeing you here tonight reminded me of what we had and how much I want to make things right. Lila held his gaze for a long moment before nodding slightly. We'll see, she said, her tone giving nothing away. But tonight isn't the place to discuss this. Eric nodded eagerly. Course. Maybe we can talk later. Catch up. We'll see, she repeated, turning her attention back to the investors as if Eric had already ceased to exist. In the weeks that followed, Eric began reaching out to Lila more frequently. He sent messages filled with poorly worded attempts at rekindling their connection, all laced with subtle hints about his financial woes. Lila responded politely but distantly, keeping him at arm's length. Behind the scenes, however, she was far from indifferent. Her legal team was combing through records, piecing together a detailed picture of Eric's financial state. What they found was both unsurprising and appalling. Eric had amassed a mountain of debt, burned bridges with former colleagues, and attempted to forge documents in a desperate bid to salvage his failing ventures. The evidence painted a clear picture. Eric's newfound remorse was nothing more than a thinly veiled ploy to get his hands on her fortune. Rather than confront him outright, Lila decided to play a longer game. She arranged a meeting, inviting Eric to her company's headquarters under the guise of discussing opportunities for reconciliation. Eric arrived in his best suit, his nervous energy barely concealed. The sprawling office building was a stark reminder of how far Lila had come, and how far he had fallen. Lila greeted him in a sleek conference room, her posture confident and her expression unreadable. Thank you for coming, Eric, she said. I wanted to discuss a potential path forward. Eric leaned forward eagerly. Course, I'm here to listen. I just want what's best for Ellie, and for us. Lila allowed a small smile to play at the corners of her lips. I'm glad to hear that, she said. Because what's best for Ellie is ensuring her future is secure. Eric nodded vigorously. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. She slid a folder across the table. In that case, you'll find this of interest. It's a detailed account of your financial activities over the past 5 years. Eric's face drained of color as he opened the folder, his hands trembling. The documents laid bare every shady deal, every forged signature, every debt he had tried to hide. This is private, he stammered, his voice cracking. Lila leaned forward, her gaze icy. It's public record, Eric. And it paints a very clear picture of your intentions. You didn't come back for Ellie. You came back because you thought you could manipulate me into bailing you out. Eric's mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. You've made your choices, Eric, Lila said, rising to her feet. And I've made mine. Consider this your official notice. You have no place in my life or Ellie's. Any further attempts to contact me will result in legal action. As Eric sat there, stunned and humiliated, Lila walked out of the room without a backward glance. Eric sat alone in the sterile conference room, the weight of the folder in his hands suffocating. Lila's words rang in his ears, each syllable cutting deeper than the last. He had walked into this meeting believing he could manipulate his way back into her life, but instead, he was left with the stark realization that the woman he once dismissed as weak was now far beyond his reach. Days turned into weeks, and Eric's desperation only grew. He attempted to contact Lila through mutual acquaintances, sending messages disguised as heartfelt apologies, but every effort was met with silence. He even tried approaching her through social media, but her accounts were fortified against any attempts to invade her privacy. Eric's spiraling anxiety led him to a reckless decision. He hired a lawyer to file a frivolous lawsuit, claiming he was entitled to a portion of Lila's wealth as her former spouse. The move was a desperate gamble, one he hoped would pressure her into a settlement to avoid public scrutiny. But Eric underestimated the powerhouse Lila had become. The courtroom was packed on the day of the hearing. Eric arrived with his lawyer, trying to exude confidence, but the sweat beading on his forehead betrayed his nerves. Lila, on the other hand, entered with a commanding presence, flanked by her legal team. She wore a tailored navy suit that radiated authority, her expression calm and unshakable. Eric's lawyer began with a weak argument, claiming that Eric had supported Lila during the early days of their relationship and was therefore entitled to a share of her success. But Lila's attorney quickly dismantled the claims, presenting evidence of Eric's abandonment and financial deceit. Then came the moment Eric had feared most. Lila's legal team introduced a counterclaim, presenting the court with the forged documents Eric had attempted to use to access her accounts. The judge's stern glare bore into Eric as the evidence was laid out in excruciating detail. Eric squirmed in his seat, his bravado crumbling under the weight of the accusations. "Your Honor, this is a misunderstanding," he stammered, but his voice lacked conviction. Lila rose to address the court, her voice steady and resolute. "This case isn't just about a man trying to steal from me," she began. "It's about accountability. Eric left me when I needed him most, abandoning not just me but his own child. Now he wants to profit from the life I've built without him. But I won't let him rewrite history to suit his greed." The courtroom was silent as her words hung in the air. Even Eric's lawyer seemed reluctant to meet her gaze. The judge ruled swiftly, dismissing Eric's case and ordering him to pay Lila's legal fees. But the humiliation didn't end there. Lila's legal team announced their intention to pursue charges for forgery and fraud, ensuring that Eric's name would be tied to his crimes for years to come. Eric's downfall made headlines. His failed lawsuit and criminal charges splashed across every news outlet. He became a cautionary tale, his name synonymous with greed and betrayal. Former colleagues and acquaintances distanced themselves from him, leaving Eric utterly isolated. Meanwhile, Lila continued to thrive. She expanded her company, using her platform to advocate for single mothers and survivors of domestic abandonment. Her story of resilience resonated with millions, inspiring women around the world to reclaim their power. One day, while attending a charity event for underprivileged families, Lila was approached by a young woman holding a notebook. Ms. Carter, the woman said nervously, I just wanted to thank you. Your story gave me the courage to leave an abusive relationship and start over. I don't know where I'd be without you. Lila smiled warmly, her heart swelling with pride. Thank you for sharing that with me, she said. You're stronger than you know. As the event continued, Lila watched Ellie, now a bright and confident 6-year-old, playing with other children. Her daughter's laughter was a reminder of everything she had fought for and everything she had gained. Across town, Eric sat in a dingy apartment, nursing a drink and staring at the stack of unpaid bills on his kitchen table. His once pristine suit was wrinkled and threadbare, a stark contrast to the image he had so carefully cultivated in the past. The world had moved on without him, and he was left to face the consequences of his actions alone. Lila's life became a testament to resilience and perseverance. Her company grew into a global powerhouse, and she used her success to support causes close to her heart. Through it all, she remained grounded, never forgetting the struggles that had shaped her. And as for Eric, his story served as a warning, a reminder that greed and betrayal might bring temporary gain but ultimately lead to ruin. In the end, Lila's triumph wasn't just about her wealth or success. It was about reclaiming her narrative, proving that strength and integrity would always prevail over selfishness and deceit. Dear viewers, thank you for watching. If you like this story, please subscribe to our channel to receive more stories every day. Share with us what you think of this story.